Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And it is I don't know where you are in the country right now, but where we are, it is extremely hot. I am struggling to function as a human being. I am thirsty at the best of times. I'm actually really regretting the fact I don't have a drink right now in front of me because I don't think I'm going to last the whole time. So whenever there's a jingle coming up, I'll be off to get a drink because it is so hot in general. And I feel like the most British thing in the world is to talk about the weather. And also moan about the weather.
Of course.
Yeah, because I spent all of the year saying how cold and miserable. And I wish we were just somewhere where it was nice. It's finally nice. And I don't know about you, Hayden, but I'm struggling to function as a human being.
Yeah, the thing that on top of this, right? On top of all this, because obviously very British, we must moan about this as well, is I can't believe how many of us, including me, are allergic to the earth. Like, I don't understand why I wake up in the summer.
Yeah.
I've been like, yes, come on, 8 months of it's been cold. It's been so cold.
Right.
I finally got some heat. Oh, I'm allergic to the air. Like, what? Why?
You talking about hay fever?
Hay fever, yeah. Like, why are my eyes itching? Come on, we've evolved to this. What's happening? It's a joke.
It's so true. I don't get hay fever, luckily. But for the first time in what I feel like is my life, because I don't know, I was sneezy and had a tickly nose, and I felt like it was what hay fever was last week when I was in school. Yeah. And I thought, don't start now.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to be allergic to the grass.
One of us. One of us. It does
horrendous.
just happen though, because I definitely did not have hay fever for a huge portion of my life. That was not a thing I experienced, and I got older.
Insane.
And yeah. Anyway, other than so heat and hay fever. Have a little moan.
Well, it's like swerving this round as we always do to like kind of make this to do with schools because this is a school podcast.
Of course,
is just the heat and teaching, right? Because I feel like we got to the end of the week before the heat kind of kicked in, really, and I'm dreading if it stays until next week. As we release this podcast, because teaching in a classroom of 32 children where there is barely enough room to actually move, never mind actually, have our own space around us during what is essentially a heat wave is probably one of the worst experiences that you can have in a profession.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you what, Dylan, you've actually missed out on just a little bit of icing on this cake, right? Because you've not actually taught year 6. And I don't think I need to explain why, but the older you get, the more likely it is to be worse when you're in a little room, in a heated room.
After playing football for an hour on the playground.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about so you get hardened to it. Teachers do come up when at the end of a day in year 6 on a hot day, and they go, "Whoa!" They walk in, they have to get acclimatized. They normally sort of wear some sort of special equipment for 10 minutes just to get used to it.
Do you know, I've got a theory about this.
What?
My theory is that's why you're in year 6. Is so that you don't feel embarrassed that it's actually you that's causing that. It is you.
Really? Yeah. You're saying that. Mr. Sweat is saying that. Right.
What I love is at school, Hayden and I tend to on a Tuesday, I think it's a Tuesday, for whatever reason with PPAs and stuff, we tend to have lunch together in my room.
Yeah.
Because we don't see each other really at school. We work together all the time. Yeah. And every Tuesday, one of my lovely colleagues who's a HLTA who is teaching that afternoon will come around towards the end of lunch just to get the books out ready to do their lessons in the afternoon. And every single time she comes in, she says, "Oh, it's the meat club."
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that because literally this week we didn't do it.
She came in and she said, "Oh, and do you know what? Do you know what? I was there, but you weren't." And she went, "Oh, it doesn't smell of meat this week."
So it's me.
It's the meat man.
Can we just clarify? Because this could sound right. The reason that it's called Meat Club is because we eat our lunch.
Yeah.
It's not just us. She's not calling us sacks of meat and saying we
what's
smell.
Weird is I was eating my normal lunch and she didn't. She said it didn't smell of the packet Meat Club.
Clearly, I get packety, meaty, stinky meat for lunch.
Oh gosh! But you were saying how Teacher Tat was mentioning.
Yes,
about,
there was
AC or something.
Yeah, I think it was maybe yesterday when we were recording this. It was a question. It was basically clearly geared towards what does your school do about the heat? Because one of the questions was about air conditioning, something to do with air conditioning. And I literally remember thinking it and thinking, this is clearly to do with the fact that schools don't have air conditioning and it's horrendous in the proper heat.
Yeah, it is awful. Like I can only say you need to experience being in that room. And you know what? Everyone was at school at some point in their life. Yeah. I remember being in secondary school especially. And oh my goodness me, if it was a hot day, everyone ran around and played at break time and stuff. Yeah. And you're in that perfect age of just like, that room must have been a hot box. Like horrendous. There's no way. How can my teachers have taught a good lesson? Like that can't be enjoyable.
And they'd still say, you cannot take your blazer off.
I know. Insane. Oh my God.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I did a whole thing about that on social media. And I'm amazed at how many people still have that view of, no, it's right. It's the right thing to do because it's smart. Even when it's like 5% of people. I just can't fathom even that amount of people thinking that it's okay to make a child really, really hot because you have to wear your jumper, because otherwise how will I have the Latin phrase on your chest that will make you feel part of the big group?
Yeah.
What on earth are you talking about?
The problem is in schools with like going back to just it being horribly hot and why it has seemingly always been like this is because air conditioning is so expensive.
Yeah.
And because I remember speaking to a head teacher once, I worked at a school years and years ago. I only worked there for 1 year. And in terms of like heat, it was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. I cannot.
Wasn't that a brand new build as well?
It was a brand new. This is what like blows my mind.
Yeah.
It was a brand new school, and I'm not saying that. Oh yeah, I went in there a couple of years. I'm talking like literally the year it was built, like brand new. I was the first person ever in that classroom facing the sun on this side of the building, and it was like to the point where I'm like, I actually maybe I'm exaggerating here. I reckon it was like over the like levels where you would ethically be allowed to have human beings in there.
Wow.
Like I honestly thought that. I was like, this
you were like the dog in the supermarket who's been left in the car.
Yeah, literally that was me and all of the kids in my class. I was like, this can't be allowed. Like how can this be? There must be a cap where at some point it's like, oh no, that's like legally not allowed. You can't have kids in a room that's this hot.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Wow.
And I said to the head teacher, I was like, why don't we have, because they didn't do it on purpose. They're not like, yeah, got ya.
Of course.
I was like, why don't we have air conditioning? And they sort of looked at me as like, do you really need to answer that question? Like, we don't even have necessities in school.
You don't have a chair in the classroom, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, I don't have a chair. Like, why do you think? I was like, oh, yeah, it's money, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it costs way too much. We just cannot afford to run.
And how many days of the year, realistically?
That's what he followed it up with. He was like, and realistically, like, we'll have 10 heat wavy kind of days in this year. We'll have a bunch of like fairly hot days that are manageable. And I was like, oh yeah, but it's rubbish though, isn't it?
Can I ask you a question linked to this? Because you get children, when you have days like this and they've been on the field and it's hot and they come down and they're sweating and they've been enjoying themselves on the field and they're 7, 8, 9 years old. Okay. Yeah. And they don't really have the forward thinking, not maliciously, but they're just enjoying themselves to think, oh, this is the time when I can go to the toilet and fill up my drink and things like that.
Sure.
And break time finishes or lunchtime finishes, they come into your classroom and 15 of them want to go to the toilet and 25 of them want to drink.
Yeah.
What's your gut instinct on that in general when that happens?
I let it go a long time ago. This whole thing, like I used to think I had to care about that.
Yeah.
I used to be like, the powers that be, if I am not teaching, if they catch me not teaching for 3 minutes of this 2.5 hour afternoon for some reason that we do with kids now, they won't like it. And now I'm just of the opinion of they're kids. Yeah. They've had their lunch break. They're hot, like you said. They're thirsty. Just let them go to the toilet and have a drink and then just start the afternoon. Just let it go. Yeah. You can actually just not get annoyed at it at all. I realize it's a decision. I just don't get annoyed about it now. I'm like, yeah, okay. They say, okay, just go now. Just go sort it out. I don't care. We'll just start in a couple of minutes. It's literally fine.
And what do you actually gain from being annoyed by it anyway? Like, and again, you're absolutely right. The only reason I've ever been annoyed at that is because I feel like I've been indoctrinated to be told I need to have every single minute on learning.
Yeah.
And actually, whenever I just actually think about what my inside thoughts are about a child saying, can I go to the toilet? And by the way, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if this will get me into trouble with other people who say this is right or wrong. If a kid in a lesson says, can I go to the toilet? I just say yes.
Yeah.
Because they just need to go to the toilet. I'm not there to train their bladder. Like, yeah, I know what, the teacher can't go to the toilet. Yeah, I'm an adult. There's a different set of rules for me. That doesn't automatically mean you can't. And I just think I've started to teach my children. And I've said to them, and I really trust them because we've built this up over the whole year now, where I'm saying to them, if you're desperate to go to the toilet, of course you can. If you can wait until you've done a few more questions because you don't really need to go right now and there's a difference, then maybe could you get these questions done for me? And I tell you what, 90% of the time, the children say, oh yeah, I'll do these questions. Because they've learned that they know they're allowed to go eventually. It's not a kind of strict, oh my gosh, if I can go, I'm going to go right now. Sure. It's just if they're desperate, they know they can go. And if they're not, and if there's one person who takes the mick a little bit about the fact that they're allowed to go to the loo for a bit, do you know what? I'd rather that one person take liberties, but there's 6 other kids who need the toilet who aren't sat there desperate, not being able to do good work because they really need to go to the loo.
That's a good point. I was about to come back at you and say there'll be the people online that say, oh, wokey teacher that doesn't have any discipline and won't lets the kids rule the roost.
Discipline, by the way, for wanting a wee.
I know, yeah. And I actually think that what you said is a really good point, and we should definitely let's make that a bigger point. Like, we've spoke about it so many times in this podcast with so many different contexts. We shouldn't take away liberties because a small percentage of people are abusing them. Like we like, there's so many elements of life, I won't go into too much detail, where that is true. And that's absolutely true of the toilet. Just let them go to the toilet. And there's another aspect of this where it's like, oh, that kid's taking advantage. They just want to get out of the classroom. Okay.
I know.
Clearly they need to get out of the classroom. Let them have a. What do you mean? Like, if you go on the one size fits all model, you do tend to like shoehorn yourself into this way of thinking of there is one rule and it's for everyone and it can't possibly be broken. And then you remember that we're all actually quite different. Yeah. And do you know what? There might just be a kid who genuinely needs 3 minutes out of your lesson every time, and the other kids don't need it, and that's fine. You can't then say, "Oh, you're now naughty for it." Yeah. Like, I'm not going to pretend that there's absolutely 0% chance that someone actually, genuinely, for no good reason, takes advantage of it. I'm sure that happens. But like you said, if you actually have a good system in your classroom, it is genuinely very, very, very rare. So rare that it's not even a worry that enters my head.
Mm-hmm. And it does make me sad inside a little bit, because again, different children will come to you and have different experiences from different teachers, whether it's in the same year group, previous year groups, previous schools even that they've been in, where a child will say, "Oh, I'm not allowed to go to the toilet in this situation," or "In that situation, I was told no for this or that." And whatever situation previously that's been in, even sometimes outside of school, I just think to myself, do you know what I can control in my classroom here is that I'm okay with you going to the toilet, and if you need a drink, I'm okay if you're having a drink. Because it's just water at the end of the day. Yeah. And then if it's the 5th time in a row in a 30-minute period, do you know what I'm going to do as a professional? Start to wonder what's going on and go and have a chat with you and see if I can get to the bottom of it. Exactly. But it's a blanket rule so often, although maybe nice and easy to kind of put out there, it's easy to say no to everyone all the time, isn't it? Is it realistic? Is it helpful? Is it nice for your kids? Oh, wokey, nice. Let's them go to the loo. If that's woke, I'm woke.
Yeah, Christ.
Call me woke.
Letting people go to the toilet.
Because you know what I think you are. If you don't, I won't say it. You're fill in that blank. Fill in that blank, and you could be that.
I won't say it because this podcast will get cancelled. Do you know what, Dylan? You might be surprised to know that there is one exception to this rule for me. Oh yeah. There is one time where I genuinely quite often say no, and that is when they ask to go to the toilet 5 seconds before I'm about to dismiss them for break time or lunchtime, and I'm like, guys, if you let me finish my sentence, I'm about to say you can go. Like, there's honestly, you're taking longer, ironically, to ask me to go to the toilet than I would have just finished the lesson. And it happens a lot, and I finally worked out why. Like, I don't know why it took me so long, because it's quite simple. I finally worked out why there was such a phenomenon of people asking me to go to the toilet in like the last 2 minutes of the lesson, and I was like, what's going on? Why does this always seem to happen? It's because they don't want to waste their break time. They want to go to the toilet so they can do that bit, not in their break time. Because you know what? Just a reminder of everyone, even though we say, why didn't you go in your break time? You just had break. Kids don't want to waste their break time going for a wee. They want to have fun. Break time for them is playing football or running around or playing
and they don't
swords
get
or
much
whatever.
Break time. And I do think this conversation, by the way, I do think it's a very different conversation as they move up to secondary school. There'll be lots of secondary school teachers listening to this going, well, yeah, my kids go to the toilet for a vape break. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very, 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 very different. Like,
we're talking 8-year-olds.
We come from the angle of an 8-year-old where 99% of the time they just want to go to the loo and it's fine. Yeah. And so, I think that's a completely different conversation, like you're saying. Yep. But again, you're right. You know, you use your break. I'm an adult and I use my break to go to the toilet. And you know, we should be saying to the children, if you can wait until break time, that's how we function in society usually is. If you're watching a film, you wait until the intermission. You might need the toilet for a bit. It's okay to need to go to the toilet and not immediately be gratified. Yeah. But what I'm saying is just in general, if they can, why am I inventing the rule that they can't? It's not like it's a show where the show's carrying on and we can't miss much. I'm in a classroom where you can go. So do you know what? Can you hold it? No, I'm desperate. Off you go.
Yeah. And is that naughty? No. God, let's just get over it.
Exactly.
Anyway, that ended up a bit of crazy chat there.
The other thing we're going to catch up about is this is the time of the year we're past the May 31st deadline where you put your letters of resignation in, and I'm pretty sure by now if someone had decided that they were going to stop teaching, I mean, we're a few weeks in by now, you would have heard about it. So
we literally had, didn't we, at our school, the teacher sheet come around this week, the teacher sheet, so everyone gets to find out at our school. I don't know if it's the same for you guys. Everyone's found out this week. Maybe your head teacher leaves it a bit longer because they're still trying to figure it out. But we found out where all the teachers and TAs are going to be next year.
And it's big, isn't it? You see a lot of people saying, I'm officially in this year group or that year group. And I know a lot of people will be listening to this and think, I wonder what guys they're in, because you're in year 6, obviously.
Yeah, been in year 6 for 5 years now. You've been in year 4 for probably quite a long time as well.
For a long time. And I know you like to tell me that you're in 6 and I'm in 4.
Yeah,
and somehow
better, sort of superior.
Kind of dichotomy there. So where are you next year?
Funnily enough, I wasn't on that sheet.
And me neither.
And you weren't either. And I did notice that. And I did think, what on earth has happened here?
So what's happening, Aidan?
Well, guys, we've got quite a big announcement to make. And we're making it very casually in the middle of this episode. But Dylan and I have quit teaching.
We have quit teaching. I mean, I think...
My heart's going right
I know. It's a big thing, isn't it? Because we've talked about it a lot. Yeah. We've talked about quitting teaching a lot. We talked about the pros and cons. And I don't know. I've not done the title to this episode yet, but you may well have clicked it thinking, "Oh, I kind of already got a hint of what's going on."
Yeah, maybe.
So less of a cliffhanger for you maybe than for us.
True.
But
True.
yeah, listen, we are not going to be an official weekly classroom teacher anymore from next year. We've put our notice in, and I think we're going to dive into now a little chat about it. So there'll be a lot of people out there. And we've got a lot of messages from people in general saying, guys, keep fighting the good fight. You know, what you're saying is really important for teachers. You're doing the right thing. We need more teachers like you. Well, you haven't.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I finally caved to that message with the guy with the Nigel Farage picture on his profile picture that said, quit then. I was like, well, all right then.
So let's be real. Let's just rewind for a second because we've done a lot of episodes. We've done weekly episodes now for nearly like a year. We haven't missed anything.
Yeah, we've not missed a beat.
And obviously we put our resignation letter in before the deadline. So a few weeks ago now. But we've known for quite a few months, I think, that we were 99% going to do it. Again, we had conversations with our head teacher. Nothing was a shock. It's a long-term decision. So Hayden, I want you to explain, because I think there's going to be a lot of overlap between us, why we have decided to quit teaching.
It's a big question, Dill. It's a big question. And I don't want to do it a disservice with one answer. There's going to be lots of prongs to this, okay? But do you know what? If I'm going like properly, just right at the core of this, I just feel like I'm wasting too much time. I waste so much of my time doing things that I just don't think, and to the point where I'm so arrogant about it, I know it's just not impacting the kids. It's not impacting me as a teacher. I'm just wasting my time constantly, and I'm sick of it.
We've talked a lot about this exact thing, and we've done what I think, and I hope, and I know from messages we've got, is it's helped people a lot to kind of get to the bottom of what they can cut out of the job, right? Yeah. And I know you and I have cut out a lot of things from the job, which may rub people up the wrong way, may make certain people think that we're not in it properly, etc. But we back ourselves to know we're doing the right thing for the kids all the time. We've cut all that back, and it sounds like you still think we do too much rubbish. Yeah. Is it rubbish, or is it that you personally just don't want to do it anymore and that you think it's acceptable? Like, you know, is it just part of the job and you've just got to the point where you don't want to do it anymore? Or is there still things in this system now as teaching that you just think that is completely pointless and I'm still doing it?
A bit of everything. So let me break that down. I think I like to think I follow my own advice in terms of cutting back on...
You do?
On gunk we really don't need to do in this job. There's a lot of superficial stuff that we convince ourselves we have to do, and we really just don't have to do it, and we talk about it a lot in this podcast. But then there is just stuff that is baked into the job, right? That I also just hate doing, like marking. I know it sounds silly. It's like, you're a teacher, of course you're marking. Get over it, marking. It's like, yeah, okay, do you know what? 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, I could get over it. I was like, it's not that unenjoyable. But I'm at the point now where with marking and even down to like planning, like I think because I've always planned at home, and maybe this is a fault of my own, right? Because I really struggle to plan at school. So I have to just be in my own space, and I find I'm easier if I'm at home just planning my lessons. I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't enjoy it. I love being with the kids, but I just don't want to do the stuff around it. And a lot of that stuff is actually reasonable, which has made me think, have I just been in this game too long? I don't know.
That kind of ticked over for us, didn't it? I can talk from my own experience here that I think I was good 2, 3, 4 years ago, probably around COVID time, to be fair, of realizing what was really impactful for the children and cutting back what I didn't want to do anymore. But there is certain parts of this job now where I can't sit here on this podcast and say, oh, don't do that. It's just a nonsense, because it's probably helpful. And there's probably parts of the job that are good in terms of that, you know, looking at books and knowing children's gaps and things. Yeah, that is helpful, isn't it? Like, that is the extra mile you want to go to. Replanning things to be more in line with new curriculums and stuff. Yeah. That is obviously a good thing that we need to do. And I can't sit here and say we shouldn't do that. But what I can sit here and say is I don't want to spend my time doing it. I don't want to do it. And if it was just a case of turning up to teach the children, and almost having that freedom of 20, 30 years ago, you know, pre-curriculum even, that people talk about, that freedom people used to have, I think it would be a 10 out of 10 job. But there's just too much stuff that I'm not even now at this point saying is completely pointless. What I'm saying is I simply don't want to spend my time doing it.
I find the compounding of stuff that I should reasonably just be doing that I don't really enjoy doing anymore, like the stuff that goes around the actual, you know, the good bit with the kids, plus genuinely all of the pressure of all of that extra stuff that we're constantly trying to help you guys like get rid of, that you can actually justifiably get rid of, that still exists though as a pressure. It's not like you get to say no and then no one ever talks about it again. All of that stuff still exists, and you still get people looking down their noses at you because you're not doing these things. They're going so above and beyond and staying till 6 every night and do. It's like, okay, look, you're still like, it still makes me feel a certain way, even when I choose not to do them. And I think the kind of combination of that, whatever that line is in my head, some things changed over the last year or so, where I was like, I don't think the pros outweigh the cons anymore to me, despite there still being the thing inside of it, which is like the thing I literally love doing the most in the world, which is teaching kids, which is why this whole conversation feels so hard, because I feel like a hypocrite. I genuinely feel like a bit of a hypocrite, like sitting here saying all this. But I'm trying to justify how I still love being with the kids, but I just can't justify, as from the holistic view of my life, I just think now is the time for me to leave the classroom.
Yeah, we've had so many conversations about this. This has been a long time coming for us. We've probably spoken about when and how and if we can quit teaching, like having long-term plans. It is something to celebrate for us, honestly, in terms of we were going to quit teaching when we got to the point where other things we wanted to do were at the point where it could sustain us. So it is a celebration in itself that we've managed to get to this point through other things, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But I want to just highlight what you said there about it is difficult as well, though. Like my first thought here, you've talked really nicely about why we've quit, why your main reason is, and we'll talk in more detail about other things. But a big forefront of my mind, for the big thing in the forefront of my mind for the last year or so even has been stopping me from confirming quitting is that I love teaching so much. I don't think ever I will replace that being a job that I love, and there's nothing better. Being in front of the children, teaching them a maths lesson, which I think is really useful for them and will help them become more rounded, and them getting something. And even for me, going in every day and building these relationships with these really amazing young people and just getting to know them and helping them develop, whether it's maths, reading, English, science, finding their interests, knowing them really well, helping them, being a safe space for them, looking after them. That is just the ultimate service job for me that I think hits every single box of what I want to do in my life. And I find it so sad, and I really, really wrestled with it, that it's got to the point where this is baked into a system that I think is inherently broken. And there are children falling through the gaps, whether it's the SEM register growing, not enough funding to actually give these kids what they need, too much pressure being put on me as a teacher, and I don't mind saying that. There's just too much pressure for me to deliver everything. It's really hard to do that. I've got to put in so much of my own extra time to get this job done. The pay is not kept up with inflation remotely. You're getting attacked from left, right and center whenever you talk about these problems from stupid people online who've never been involved in education in their life, when everything is fundamentally rooted in me wanting to help the kids. I really, really struggle, and I still struggle now, despite the fact we are quitting teaching, with that decision. And there's a part of me that feels a bit of guilt, I suppose, that I'm stepping away from that role where I can be that for the kids. Because
you know what people are going to say. You know the same people that do all the guilt tripping online and like try to convince gaslight teachers into thinking that they're only doing it for the kids and nothing else. They should be selfless martyrs and take whatever pay you're given and suck it up. You know, that kind of rhetoric. It's like, you just know what's going to happen is, well, if you love giving that to the kids so much, then you wouldn't quit. And you know that's there. And I think that's where that guilt comes from, because I get it as well. And on top of that, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel really anxious that I'm just wrong. Like, because I do feel the same with you as you about how much I love being with the kids. Like it fulfills me to like the fullest amount. It's a strange feeling. And I do worry that even though I think the cons outweigh the pros, and that being the pro, I do worry that come September or maybe even a year down the line, that if I didn't have any of that in my life, there is literally no like better alternative, where it's kind of like, oh, you could have the best job in the world, but it's still just not as wholesome as that bit of the job where you got to teach kids, and it was even worth all of the rubbish on top. That's what I'm battling with in my head. I don't think I'm wrong, because I want to give myself some credit. And I thought about, we've both been thinking about this and toying with this idea for a long time.
We nearly quit last year. We nearly quit. I don't know if we talked about this. We nearly quit 3 years ago. 3 years ago, before we went part-time. We were either going to go part-time, and if that wasn't available, we were going to quit. We were just going to take the plunge at that point. Going part-time saved our career for a bit, I must say. But yeah, you're right. We've got to that point now where we just think, look, I think it's best for us. And what I don't want to do is get to 45, 50, look back and think, that was the chance where we could have tried it. And we're going to try it now. And okay, so coming back then to kind of almost a response to ourselves there talking. If we're that, that engaged with the children, we love it so much, not even being these people who are getting annoyed at us now, but people who are in the education system saying, well, how can we keep you? one of the first questions, and I get asked this a lot now when we talk about potentially quitting in the past, why don't you just stay and climb the ladder? Why don't you just, why don't you stay in teaching then and move on to a different role, become a Senko, become a head of year, become an assistant head, become a head teacher in the long term? Is that viable? Why did you choose not to do that?
Well, it's just not desirable enough. It's simple as that, really. And I think it's the same for the stats speak for themselves. It's not desirable enough. Make that career desirable for me, and I'd consider it. But at the end of the day, you can't offer me a tin of beans and a penny and say, oh, and we're going to double your workload. Do you want to come do this? No, of course I don't.
But it's for the kids.
Oh, you'll impact more kids. Okay, well, I can go and impact. You know what? I can go and impact more kids, honestly, out of working out of a school as well. It's almost patronizing to suggest the only possible way I could impact more kids is becoming SLT at a school.
Yeah.
No, do you know what? No, that's not it. There's more ways to do that sort of thing. And that's one of the things I'd like to do when I leave teaching. But yeah, no, I don't want to work up the ladder. Could you ever see yourself as being a head of school? I could. This is going to sound really arrogant.
That sounds like everything you say.
I think I would probably enjoy being a head teacher. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'd enjoy any of the roles in between teaching and being a head teacher. I don't know, because I think people are like, oh, who do you think you are? I'd go straight to the top. I think I would enjoy it. I don't think I can go straight to the top, but I think I'd enjoy the head teacher role. But again, I see it as a burnout role. And do you know what? Isn't that crazy that is normal? That's normal conversation. If I spoke to someone recently, funny enough, who said, oh, maybe I would probably enjoy being a head teacher. And they said, oh no, don't do that. Do that when you're 50 and it's the last 4 years of your career. It's a burnout role. And I was like, isn't that, what do you mean it's a burnout role? That shouldn't be a burnout role. That should be something where like anyone who's got the skill set and passion to do that, we should be getting them people in that role and keeping them there for a long time. Crazy. So yeah, couldn't be a head teacher. I don't know about you. Like, what's your opinions on the whole thing, the whole scale, moving up the system, being a head teacher, all of it?
I don't want to do it. We talked about it a million times. I don't want to do it. Is middle leadership worth it? No. You've got to be stuck in middle leadership for 3, 4, 5 years. I'm not going to do it. And I think this is it's going to come back to, we've not even mentioned this yet, the thing that I'm most strongly passionate about is my actual child. I've got a child now. Rory is nearly 2.
Yeah.
He's only going to be in them preschool years for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of years now where we can be more flexible. And this is a big part of it, is this flexibility that we're going to have, because teaching, it sounds great. 13 weeks off a year, isn't it good? It's probably one of the least flexible jobs out there. You can't choose when your time off is.
No.
If Rory's ill or something, or, you need to book something out, or Rory's got a class that we're going to go to, there's no physical way I can book that time off if it's in term time. It's not flexible at all. Some days, and this was a kicker for me where I really kind of ticked over to be like, I'm quitting, was there are some days in term time where I get up, get ready and leave before Rory's woken up.
Yeah.
And I get home and Rory's just had his bath and he's going down to bed. And I just personally don't care. And you can come to me with your hustler mindset all you want, or like getting out there and getting that pee and stuff. I don't even disagree. Like, you do you, right?
Yeah.
You do you, and there's a benefit to that, putting food on the table, etc. And that's a role of a person in a family that is really important. If there's a way for me to not have to do that and still support him and still, be there for him financially, but I can also be there with him in person more whilst he's still not in school and in those formative years, that is worth more than anything to me. So even if it means that, okay, look, I've got rid of my teacher pension, everyone says it's so amazing. I don't have those 13 weeks off a year guaranteed anymore. I'm missing out on that part of the job which I love, which is with the kids. Added on to that cons that we talked about, the things we don't want to do in the job anymore, how much stress there is, how much burnout there is in term time, the cognitive load we can talk about. The biggest thing for me is the time I lose with my son in term time.
Yeah.
And do you know what I can do? I can just be more flexible with him. He's only little once. That was a big decider for me, where I'm like, okay, I'm only ever going to be in that situation ever again if I choose to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not choosing at the minute, and there's no flexibility there. So big thing for me is young family. And I don't think I'll ever look back and think, I just wish I was in school longer. I'm going to look back and think, I just wish I'd left and didn't do that part of marking, which had no impact on 32 kids, but meant I didn't get to have bath time with my son.
Yeah, yeah.
Realistically, I don't really care. Me personally, I'd rather go and have bath time with my son every day of the week.
It's real. It's raw, and it's not something we probably would have been able to say a few years ago, because we just, even hearing about it, you're just not the same, is it? You're in that situation now, and it's real for you, and you can't invalidate that. Like, no one can say, nah, you're wrong. It's like, no, what do you mean? No, that's just how you feel, and that's completely acceptable. And I feel the same. There's one more thing that I guess I want to mention as a as a reason for I just don't want to be in this job anymore. And this one's a little bit not as much about me, I guess, and my experience with it. It's just I just can't deal with the fact that the entire time I've worked in this job, it's just been underfunded constantly. I'm actually just like losing the will to live with how I just have to go to a workplace that's falling down and kids don't have any staff and it's not for any fault of anyone in our school. It's because the powers that be don't fund it properly. And I just like, I can't do this anymore. Like even down to, okay, let's bring it to a selfish level, even down to like, you know what your pay pack is. You start teaching, you know what your pay is going to be in 6 years because it's capped out. And it's done. It's like, okay, there's no money in it. It goes down every year, respectively. You speak to your teachers that, you know, are on their way out when you start. And they're like, oh yeah, I used to have a fantastic lifestyle in this profession, which is a profession, by the way, and is essential for society. Doesn't exist anymore, though. I can barely make ends meet now. Oh, okay, right. So just that the lack of funding in schools and how it impacts me and how it impacts the kids, and that therefore impacts just the wider profession and the experience of this job. I'm just not about it, and I'm bored of it. I'm sick of it.
Absolutely. It's another depressing fact where I live my life, my work life, having to ignore the fact that I can't cater to everyone. And it's so easy online. And do you know what? Parents of, especially parents of children with SEN needs, I can't fathom what they have to go through to even get a slight modicum of what their child needs for support in schools. But I can promise you right now that every single teacher, or by the vast majority of teachers, want what's best for your children as well. And it is just so hard right now in school financially. And just like you're fighting for your child, and you should continue to fight for your child, and you should continue to be the voice for that child, I promise you teachers want the best for your kids as well. We've got 32 of them. We've got 32 of people's worlds in front of us. And a bunch of them won't need any extra support. And, you know, you shouldn't need an EHCP to be meeting the needs of all the kids. No, okay, I know that. But an EHCP comes with funding. So it's really vital that kids who need that get that kind of support. And there are going to be then the children who aren't on the EHCP register in terms of getting that support, but are still on the special educational needs. There was news this week of it going up to 20% of children are special educational needs. We need to have inclusion.
20%.
20%, 1 in 5, which sounds right. And if anything, low based on what I've seen. Christ. In terms of being in a class of 30 children, that's 6 kids. I think that's about right.
I suppose when you put it like that, I wouldn't have. If you said guess the number, I probably would have gone under 10%.
Yeah. But when you actually think about your class and maybe profile it in your head, 6 out of 30, it's about right. It's about right, I'd say, for that kind of thing. Yeah. And those that overlap there, where they don't get the funding but they need that extra support, absolutely schools should be putting things in place for them. But how? We don't have the adult support in classrooms anymore. Teaching assistants have been decimated. I would love to know what percentage of teachers have the same teaching assistant all week. That used to be a thing when I was at school. It was a teacher and a teaching assistant and they were a team. And they were together all week and they just taught everything together. It doesn't happen anymore. Have a teaching assistant X% of the time. Yeah. And it just doesn't happen. These little tiny things that have been eroded and picked away at and picked away at and picked away at. And I've been in this job for nearly a decade now. And I have seen how those small pickings away every single year have impacted now along the long term. And we are in a situation where we need radical change if we're going to keep up with the needs of our children.
Yeah. And it has just ultimately tipped the job to a point where it's just undesirable for me now. That's it. You know, at the end of the day, I am a human being as well. We're not these selfless martyrs that everyone seems to want teachers to be. I am just a guy doing a job, in all honesty. And I've got my own life. I've got my own family, and I've got other aspirations that I want to achieve and things. And it was just a point where it's like, it's tipped too far. Yeah. Do you know what? If they want to keep me in education, they could honestly have made any more than 0% effort for the last 10 years. Because that's what's happened. Yeah. That's what's happened in this country. Yeah. It's not keeping teachers who love doing this job anymore. No. It's not keeping skilled teachers. Like, I'm good at what I do. I've done it for 10 years. And again, very arrogant. I'm really running the theme in this one, aren't I? Of arrogance. But,
I can think of the title now in the Daily Mail. Arrogant teacher leaves job and moans.
But I'm good at what I do, and you're good at what you do as well. Like, we actually shouldn't be. You're good at what you do as well. I'll say it one more time. You're good at but we shouldn't be leaving this job. Like, the system should be keeping us.
I think a huge problem with the current way that education is structured, and because of the erosion over time, and because of what things have been put in place to try and solve the retention and recruitment crisis, etc., like the starting salaries being boosted up, the bursaries for training and things like that. It's just a complete wrong approach. You're trying to funnel more people into a system that's completely broken. That famously fixes machines, doesn't it? If there's a machine in a factory that's broken, why don't we ram more things into the front of it?
More pressure on it.
What? Of course not. And I think I would say alongside, I mean, there's loads of jobs in education. I'm not going to sit here and say this is the one job in education which has been squeezed out because there are 15. But from my point of view and my experience of being a teacher, experienced classroom teachers are seen as completely dismissible. Because, you know, you go and look for a job now as a teacher. It used to say main pay raise to upper pay scale, and maybe the school can make a decision based on how much experience they wanted. You look at jobs now, over half of them will just say M1 to M4. ECTs needed because they're cheaper.
Because we can't afford you, basically.
We can't afford you.
Can't afford experience to the point where, like, it's not even valued anymore.
No. So you get to the point where you've been a teacher, like us, for 10 years plus. That's where you get guilt tripped and thought, oh gosh, I need to be doing loads more jobs to make myself viable in this school now because I'm not going to be able to move anywhere else. And oh gosh, they're going to take me off UBS if I don't do all this extra stuff. That's where academies and trusts and people from the top down can really exploit experienced staff, overwork them, burn them out, squeeze them for as much as they can whilst they're still in the school. And then guess what? When they quit, replace them with someone who's 15 grand a month cheaper. Whoopoo.
Yeah, 15 grand a month. Crikey, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
I wouldn't mind 15 grand a month.
Hang on a minute. How much have you been earning in this job?
I'm actually staying in teaching.
Yeah, crikey. Do you know, one thing I want to come back on as well, because I think I can imagine it left thoughts in people's heads, is when you were talking about kind of like the big why, right? Why you're going to do it. And you were talking about your son and that flexibility. You want to have that time at home with him rather than being in this job where there's no flexibility and you're going to miss out on stuff. It kind of gave the impression that you're going to quit teaching and just sit around at home and live off the millions. Yeah, hang on a minute.
Because teaching's so bloody lovely. So amazing.
Yeah, you're going to just live off your pension pot at 32, 31, however old you are, I don't know. But really, let's just talk about then, like, what are we going to do, like our plans, you know? First of all, like, if you've been listening to this for a long time, you'll know that we went part-time because we have a tutoring company. So obviously we have another income stream there, because that's the reason we went part-time in the first place. So that is going to be helping keep us afloat massively. And we're going to continue to try and expand and grow that tutoring and just put more of our thought and effort into that. But it's not the only thing we're going to do. Dylan, do you want to talk about some of our other
I just want to clarify that tutoring thing as well, because I think a lot of people were listening going, well, I'm thinking of leaving teaching and I don't have anything to fall back on and I wish I could. And what I would say to you is this is not a willy-nilly quit. We don't just thought, let's just quit. It's fine. We have meticulously over years put, extra work into growing something to be able to be in this position. Okay. And you might be in a position where you quit because you're going to find a different job. We're in a position where we've built something up. The tutoring from the numbers we've run and how we built it up should hopefully, we can survive. Yeah. Okay. So then
it's a pay cut, but we can.
Of course, it's a pay cut because currently we're doing the tutoring and we're teaching, but the time's going to be the payoff. But if we can cover our mortgages and survive, that's all good. So that's the first thing I'd say. If you're thinking of teaching, just think about what kind of side bits you can do just to boost yourself that you have control over, because I think that's really, really powerful. A huge thing for me, and this links back with the fact I love teaching so much, is that I'm very passionate about this. I'm going to sign up to do some kind of supply. Now, we've talked about it a lot in terms of the benefits of signing up for a supply company when they take a certain percentage of the profits. I saw the stats again. It was crazy. I'm going to say the stats from the average for secondary school, because this was the biggest gap, was schools are on average paying about £290 a day for supply. But a teacher's average take as a supply teacher in a secondary school was about £140.
Right.
So it really was
like
double.
50%.
Yeah, it really was like a 50% cut. And there'll be lots of reasons why supply companies try and justify with it. I just think that's incredibly, like, for the job of the person doing the day's teaching and the job of the person finding someone to do the day's teaching, they're not equal, are they?
Yeah, they can't be. There's got to be a better system out there.
So I don't know if I will sign up to a company, but what I will definitely do is get the enhanced DBS check, get my name out there with schools, and just say, look, if you're looking for any kind of cover, maybe we could do it even together. Just say, look, hit one of us up or email this, and we'll have. Maybe we can. Do you know what I've been thinking about a lot, and this is just ad lib now on this podcast, is thinking about just getting some other contacts for a list.
Right.
And instead of signing up and a company where they've got 1,000 teachers, and obviously I'll find someone, if we can somehow find a group of 6, 7, 8 teachers who are quite local in our area, and just say, like, well, it'll come through us. I'm not going to take a cut. This is just a list.
One of us would hopefully
if me or you can't do it, well, we'll just quickly send out a WhatsApp in the morning or something. But I think there's a way round where then I can actually get paid for my day's work that a school is paying. I think cutting out that middleman, I get why that middleman exists for ease, mainly from the school's point of view. But, I really want to do supply.
Yeah. And ultimately, like I'm the same. Like we've obviously talked about doing supply before. We both agreed it was a good option because I don't want to be out of the classroom. I will miss the kids. I know it. Like I haven't done this job for 10 years and put up with some of the stuff that I hate for so long.
We still will be teaching.
Yeah, like realistically, we said all this. Like we're good. But I'm going to try and be in the classroom still. But we are quitting classroom teaching and we are buying back that complete freedom of our time. Ultimately, if I don't want to do supply for a month, I'm not doing supply for a month. So that's the freedom I'm getting there to continue, expanding on choosing company. And do you know what? I'm not going to go into the details of it right now because even we don't really know exactly yet. But we are sticking around in education. Like we're not going to go off into a different industry here. Like that is not our plan. Our master plan here is very much to be working full time across our different ventures within education, whether it's ed tech or curriculum stuff or supply or whatever it is. Like we're going to be staying in education. And of course, this podcast.
Yep, that's a big one. I think we should just take a minute to reflect on, and people listening who've got this far, I think probably the reason we're even in this position right now to be so confident we can quit teaching is because of this podcast, is because of what we've built on social media, is because of the amazing people we've met throughout our whole journey of building this podcast up from literally nothing. And I know I say this a lot but it's because I'm really quite proud of it. Is you get a lot of people who do amazing work on social media, lots of kind of educational stuff that they post, and they do unbelievable work, and they build up a community around a day in the life of a teacher, or these websites that are really cool to use, etc. And then those people kind of get to that point and they think, well, what else can I do? And they'll start a podcast maybe, and they'll have a bunch of followers maybe, and they'll just start their podcast up from there. That what I'm really proud of is that we started this podcast with nothing. We had nothing. We did nothing, and we just had this passion and desire and love of this job of teaching, which is still there. We still love this job so much, but this see people around us burnt out and completely ruined from this job. And I was just fed up of it. And I love how many people we have now reached through social media, through being passionate about education, through doing this podcast for 2.5 years at this point. And it is because of all of those people and the confidence we have and the love we get from you guys, which you messaging us saying you helped me, you made me have more time with my son, you let me stand up to SLT when I knew they were wrong, you gave me the confidence to do something. And we know that we can continue to do that and expanding this podcast and continue, because this podcast is going nowhere, guys. We're going to carry on saying what we need to say for education. We're going to be in the classroom still. We're going to have your back. We're going to be the people who can speak out for teachers all the time and just be behind them and help them as much as possible. So we want to do more. I mean, again, like you said, Hayden, we haven't actually fully decided exactly the avenues we're going to go down, but there's going to be more series that we're going to do. There's going to be extra things that we put in place to get content out there for you guys. I
want to use my time to do realistically why I started this podcast with you. And it was very much your passion. When we started this, you were the one that was like spearheading, like, come on, let's do this podcast. And for me, I was like, okay, I need to find like a purpose for this as well. I'm not just going to do it willy-nilly just for a laugh. Like it needs to be something to me as well. And to me, it was about being the voice. Like I was like, okay, I'll speak out then about things that maybe people feel awkward about. I'll speak out about the troubles in education that maybe people don't know about. And we'll try and reach as many people as possible. And I just want to be a voice for people in education, kind of like what you were saying. So for me, whatever we do with this podcast, any expansion that comes, it doesn't matter if I'm in the classroom 1 day a week, 3 days a week, or 5 days a week, or 1 day a month, honestly, because we're going to continue talking to teachers, continue talking to people working in education in general, and we're going to be that voice. And with my free time that we're going to get from this, I'm going to be pushing that narrative out harder than ever before, because I'm not going away from education. Neither are you. Like we're still going to be here. We're just not going to be spending 3 days a week in the classroom. We'll be that voice, and we'll make your voices very clear. So keep writing into us.
So to round this off, I guess, this chat about why we're quitting, etc., because we'll have a little bit of something else in a second to finish off this podcast. Sure. But basically, what I want you to do now is, people have listened to this, people have clicked on it, we're leaving teaching, here's why, here's what we're doing. Someone out there now listening is thinking, wow, they've done it. They've quit teaching. I wonder if I should. What would you say to someone that they should be thinking and having a thought train of when coming to a conclusion whether they should continue teaching or stop? What would you say to that person?
Where's your line? I spoke earlier about my line. What I can't tell you is exactly the criteria at which point you have to say, oh yes, now I'm quitting. It is totally subjective, completely up to you. Where's your line? There was a line for me where the cons outweighed the pros. My cons might be different to your cons. My pros might be different to your pros. But there was a point where that happened. Firstly, I also didn't do it immediately. I did spend quite a lot of time, as Dylan said, we didn't talk about it much on this podcast because we kind of wanted to leave it until we've actually decided whether or not we're going to do it.
And we honestly basically did do all that discussion on the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just in a way where that's what a lot of people are talking about.
That is quite funny. Yeah.
It molded a lot of our opinions, didn't it?
Our minds have been like completely unfiltered out on this podcast. There's no faking it. Everything we say is on here. But yeah, find your line. That's my advice anyway. Find your line and really sit down and think about the pros and cons and the whole wider side of life as well. For Dylan, a huge part was one of the massive pros was he gets to spend time with his son, who's only this age once. This could be a different conversation if it was in 6 years' time and your son is just at school anyway. Yeah, like that might not be a bigger factor for you, and it might change your whole opinion. So think about that for yourself. That would be me. Did you want to add anything to that?
I think if I'm talking to someone who's thinking about quitting, what I'd say to you is run the numbers. This is so important, and a lot of people again they don't live life blasé because a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, etc. like that. But what I'm saying, run the numbers really carefully and really think about what your minimum level you can drop to is. Really, really look at what are your rent monthly payments or your remortgage is coming up. What's it going to go to?
Yeah.
Look at how much money you need to live and survive, and then add, I would say, 30% on top of that.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, that is my bare minimum. In my household, how can I reach that bare minimum? If I can't reach that bare minimum through quitting teaching, I need to be working on that as I'm still teaching.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And if my aim is to quit teaching, there's your goal. Have a goal. What you can't do is just think, oh, well, I can't get there. I'll just hope one day I can, because I tell you now, you won't. The way teaching is funded and the way our pay has been squeezed over and over again, and the way inflation is going and interest rates, etc., you will not end up leaving teaching. You have to have an actionable plan. So go away, run your numbers, see what your baseline is. I think it's called Pit Pony method if you want to search that. It basically works out what your absolute minimum actually is, because for a lot of people, you can earn less than you think and still stay afloat and still be okay. There might be some sacrifices you make. And you know what? You might look at it and go, well, I can quit teaching, but I'll have to sacrifice this part of my lifestyle and I won't be able to go out as much. Do you know what? The pros of teaching outweigh the cons at that point. I'm going to stay in teaching.
Yeah.
You have to do what Hayden has said.
Find your line.
But I think you can only find your line when you look at the black and white money you can actually afford to do. And if you can't afford to do it and you really want to quit, start doing that side hustle idea. Start doing a bit of tutoring on the side and start getting your CV up on jobs online, on Indeed, go on LinkedIn. Put yourself out there because you won't regret it. If you want to quit teaching, don't think that it will just happen. You have to just do it. And when people look at us and the things we've achieved and the things we've done, and if ever anyone tries to belittle it by saying, oh yeah, well, anyone could have done that, my response is always, yeah, but I did. And you didn't. And that is it.
You're just lucky.
You got to try. You're just lucky. Do you know what? I am lucky. I want to talk about this. Kind of winds me up a little bit because I am lucky and I'm never ever going to turn into that person. Like you see millionaires who say, how'd you get that? Hard work. No, you were lucky as well. You were very lucky. Almost always. You're lucky for a reason. And you just need to be a bit self-respective there and say, yeah, I was lucky, but but I worked hard. Yeah. I gave myself the opportunity to be lucky. Yeah. Give yourself the opportunity to be lucky. I applied to go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire 7 times. I got rejected 6 times. Finally got on it, won some money.
Yeah.
Very, very, very lucky. But I could have stopped after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could have stopped and said, oh, it's not for me. I can't do it.
Yeah.
No, keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, similar to our tutoring company, it's 7 years old now. Sometimes I forget to mention how long that's been. We started our tutoring company 7 years ago.
2 years into teaching.
7, yeah, exactly. 2 years into teaching. So it's taken 3 years for me. So it's taken a long time to build to the position it's in. And it's still not done. No. Like I said, it's still going to be a risk, a sacrifice to our salaries to drop down to that amount. But yeah, I like how I kind of went down the emotional route there. Find your line. You went down a very logical path there, and it was good. I think a bit of all of that is probably how we've come to good conclusions together, because we've kind of done that thought process between us. But
I think you've got to do both. You've got to do both, and I think you can only do the emotional one if you have your black and white. If you go down the emotional route too early, you might just be like, right, I'm quitting. Put my notice in. Oh gosh, I haven't done my numbers. This isn't going to work.
I can't do it.
You have to do your numbers, and then you can be emotional and let that kind of lead yourself.
Definitely.
But do it in the parameters of your current situation. Hayden's right. We can't tell you. You have to work that out yourself.
All right, Dylan, just before we finish up this episode, I want to ask you one question. You might think it's quite funny given the context of the last 50 minutes of this episode.
Do I want air conditioning in this room? Yes.
Oh my God, please. I'll tell you what, that classroom I worked in that I told you about was hotter than this.
Really?
So so much hotter.
Okay, right, yeah, that's just
saying.
Because I feel like I've lost 7 liters of water in the last hour.
You're going to be very thirsty. But here we go. Someone asked me recently, would you recommend teaching to a friend? And for full context, this person is close to me, knew I was quitting.
Okay.
So they were kind of asking me with that in mind, which is why I'm going to now pass it over to you with that in mind. Would you recommend teaching to a friend?
This is a really hard question. We've touched on this before. Would I recommend teaching to a friend? Blanket, friend, I don't know. Blanket answer as in they don't have a they don't want to teach. They're just thinking, would you recommend it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Friend who I think has the profile that matches the best things about the job.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm quitting and I feel like I profile the best things about the job, what I like, so I know that I'm ending up quitting, I would still recommend it to that person.
Okay.
So I hope that makes sense. If I think that person has the right profile to enjoy the amazing bits about teaching, I think it's worth doing to a certain degree, to a certain level, for a few years at least. But if I was just saying blanket to someone, one of my mates who is just random thinking, I don't know what career to go down, I wouldn't go to it immediately as like, well, you have to do this.
Yeah. Someone who's thinking, I've got these 5 options, I might consider that one, and you can see there are other options, you'd probably just say like, no, don't do that. Go and do one of these other things you're interested in.
Yeah.
I guess an interesting way to explore the idea that you can say that whilst also just spending 50 minutes saying you're quitting teaching, right? Because I can see that the irony there is you're in a different position right now to where you were 9 years ago when you started. So if you could go back in time and you're your own friend, your only friend, which is real. If you could go back in time and speak to Dylan 9 years ago, as you now, Dylan, who was passionate, like about to go into teaching, he loves the idea of teaching. Would you try and steer him away from it, or would you still recommend that older Dylan? Yeah, you should go into teaching.
I'd probably say, mate, ditch the tie. It makes no difference to your teaching. Don't worry about wearing that. Don't wear a full suit.
Don't buddy up with this guy.
I see. Okay, this is a great question here, and I'd love people's thoughts if I'm being hypocritical. I don't think I would change my career path.
No,
because do you know what? And then another reason why I'm so excited by moving on to different things is it's still in education.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think I'd be in the situation right now where I feel like I can still have a massive impact on the education world if I hadn't done teaching for that long. Mm-hmm. So do you know what? If anything, maybe I would say to myself is when COVID came around, quit. Do your 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Maybe I would say to myself, you could have quit sooner.
Okay.
Maybe I could have said it to myself, and maybe I could have quit before I had my son.
Yeah.
Because I think my partner falling pregnant and knowing that Rory was on the way, definitely at that point made me think, oh, okay, look, I'll just stay for a year or two then.
Sure.
Because I've got a son on the way and this is the security that I need. So maybe a couple of years beforehand, maybe leave a bit earlier.
Maybe, yes. I don't know. I reckon you give yourself more credit. I think you did the right thing at the time. Your line moved because you were having a child. That's a huge thing. And your line just moved. And it's okay to say that. Like we're saying to other people, consider everything. No, you considered everything. And
I suppose I'm saying I think I did the right thing at the minute, but leave 2 years before that.
Right, okay.
So like, when it was 2, 3, 4 years in, before we were even thinking about having children, at that point I could have quit and tried something. But you know what? If I look back, I look at the situation I'm in now, we've built up this podcast. This podcast took 2.5 years for us to get this point. I think everything, has led to this point where I can't really look back and say, oh, well, I could have done that differently because I don't know what would have happened after.
You wouldn't be here right now.
Well, I might have a different job not even in education.
Yeah.
And I might have hated that job. Yeah. And I might have gone back to teaching and not slowly built up everything else and been in a situation where I was stuck as a classroom teacher or having to move up and do year group leader and taking all my time away. So do you know what? Realistically, I'd go back to myself and I'd say, no, keep it the same.
Yeah.
Keep it the same.
Same.
So, yeah.
I don't regret any of my career moves and decisions, in all honesty. Like I don't regret having 10 years in this career. I've loved this career. I've loved so much about this job. I hope that's come across quite clear in this because it could maybe been seen as quite negative. But I've loved it and I wouldn't change a thing. I just think the right move for me now, it's like a chess game. It's just the right move for me now is to come out of the castle. For lots of different reasons. To castle, but do it wrong. Use it as a knight.
Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
Rook to 8-5.
Good show, that.
Yeah, I never watched it. But what would you say to a friend? Because I would have reservations. Here's the big question. Would you be disappointed, happy, neutral? What would your reaction be if River, as she grew up, River got to 15, 16, doing her options, she said, you know what, I think I'm going to go into teaching.
I don't think my opinion really changes if it's River or not, in all honesty. I think I'm quite objective with this, which is fairly similar to yours, which is if I looked at River when she was 15 and knowing what teaching was like, maybe it's changed then, probably not.
Worse.
Yeah, worse. And I looked at her and I thought, yeah, you're absolutely suited for that. You know, you remind me of a young me, and I was super passionate. And I tell you what, I absolutely loved those first years of my career in terms of, there were some drawbacks in terms of, you know, toxicity in schools I worked in, but I loved I loved my job. Like, I massively loved and lived and breathed it. If I looked at her and I thought, yeah, she's got the right sort of skill set, she's the right idea there, like she's definitely built for this kind of job, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. But if I looked at her and I was worried, thinking she's being naive and this is totally not the kind of skill set, like she's been building up this other skill set which is perfect for these other things, and teaching is not going to be it, and she can have a horrible time, I won't be disappointed, but I might just try and
would you
be wise.
her? Yeah.
I'd be wise and just try to put all the facts out there and be like, you might experience this, and this. And I'd probably in my head be worried that she's going to do something that could be really bad. But, you know, I think that's my answer to that one. But going back to just the friend in general, yeah, same as you. I think if it looks like a career they'll enjoy, I'd absolutely recommend it. So I guess I want to make it really clear that our answers are no.
Yeah.
We're not just blanket. We're not allowed now, like, taking the high horse.
No.
I'm now quitting teaching, so I think everyone is a stupid career choice to make.
It's not.
Absolutely not. It's a fantastic career choice to make. It still is a fantastic career choice to make, just not for me.
Yeah. And if you've got that profile, like you said, I see so many, and I love that we have so many ECTs who listen to this podcast and seem to get so much out of it, because that doesn't change in me. Do you know, like I love being with the children and teaching them because I love helping them and molding them. I love the idea of people listening to this right now who are earlier on in their career, who want some help navigating teaching. And I want to be that voice for them. Yeah. I want to help them stay in a bit longer, even if it's an extra 2, 3, 4 years, even if they stay 9 years instead of 6 years, even if they stay 5 years instead of 2 years, whatever it might be, and they still enjoy themselves and they still get the amazing parts of this job, which are the best things in the world because they've listened to what we've said or other people have said about binning this off because it doesn't matter, or standing up for themselves. That is such a win, not only for them, but for the children who they get to teach as well. Yeah. That's why I'm so passionate, because I want to help people. I fundamentally, I got a book about Stoicism. Okay. So I'm a bit going through my Stoic phase right now. So anyone who doesn't know what Stoicism is, look it up. It's like an old philosophy. It's this idea of you're in charge of yourself, and external factors are hard to control. And if you chase trying to change things you can't change, you just lead into a cycle of just anger and bad habits and disappointment,
resentment, misery.
Right. So, and you know, listen to the podcast, you know that we need that sometimes. We're talking about a machine here. It's hard to actually influence. When it comes to that kind of idea of being in control of what you can do, that I think there's so much we can take from teachers in that respect of. That helped me get another 2, 3, 4 years out of my career. Yeah. Knowing what I'm in control over and being able to say, okay, look, I'm not in control of that, but I'm going to enjoy and do what I can do. And a big thing of Stoicism, a huge question, and I'd love everyone who's listening to ask themselves this question. And I want you to think about this as well. Maybe we'll come back to it in the future, because it's not something you can answer easily. Okay. It sounds like a basic question, but the question is, who are you? Who are you? You know, don't just say I'm a dog mum. I'm a teacher. I'm a job. I'm a capitalist function in this gear of society. Who are you? Essentially, what do you want to be defined by? What are your goals? What do you want to do and achieve in life? What do you want to be known for? Yeah. Who are you? And I've really been thinking about this question. And if I look at the things that I get the most joy out of and what I can control, it is helping other people. Yeah. It comes down to that. And like we always said, this act of service and doing things for someone else. And this idea of it's always feels better to do and give than it should be to receive. And I'm guilty of wanting to receive things and seeing value in stuff that doesn't have value. Ultimately, who are you? Like, what do you want to be known for? And I think the reason why you and I and other people who I see this kind of profile in, and why I'd say to them go into teaching, is if you have that ultimate desire to give to other people and to help them and to improve them through what you can control, teaching's the best job in the world. And if you can have that stoic attitude of, I can control what I can control, and I'm okay with the fact that I can't control other things. And if you can get over the fact that can be heart-wrenching to see kids not getting what they need, and it is true, that is not nice. And you don't have to think it's nice, but you just have to realize you can't control that. So control what you can, give to the right people in our society to help them, and ignore the noise. It can be the best job in the world. I've just got to the point now where I've done that enough. I need to remove myself because I'm finding it tricky to do.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. I think we're at the point of the podcast now where we can say we're transitioning into a philosophy podcast.
I knew you'd have some kind of smarmy response.
I didn't want to interrupt you at all because I had a few things I was going to take the mick at one point. I thought, actually, you're making a genuinely really, really, really good point. And I think, I want to reflect on that. I'm going to go and think about that. Like, who am I at that deepest level? You're right. It's so easy to be superficial and answer that question.
Who are you? I'm Hayden. I know that. Okay, who are you?
Who am I? Who want to be? And I think, that drives me. It drives you as well. We have these conversations a lot, within the parameters of that question, I think. But we're not going anywhere. I think that's really, I just want to finish up by saying and making it extremely clear that, we run a podcast called Teach, Sleep, Repeat. And
we'll still be sleeping.
I'll be repeating that actually if we want to really clutch at scores.
And we are going to teach them.
And I get exactly. We're still going to be in classes and we're still going to be in education. I want to make that really clear. Like this isn't the end. If anything, honestly, we're going to go harder.
And do you know what I generally I want and maybe need is if listeners have got this far, can you just send us a message? Can you just let us know? Have we achieved some of the things we've set out to achieve? Do you feel heard? Do you enjoy what you hear? What do you want to hear more of? What can we do to help?
Because we've got a lot of time to kill. we got a serious amount of time to fill up. So if you could just give us some ideas, I'll tell you what, mate.
Well, do you know what? We've got some holidays coming up. And I keep saying, in the summer, we'll have time to fit this in. And then I suddenly remember, no, that's it now. Yeah, we don't go back in September.
Yeah, that carries on. The ultimate teacher holiday.
Time for us. And we want to make a change. We want to serve people. We want to help you. Help us help you. Get in touch. Give us prompts. Give us ideas. Because we've got a whole bunch in my notes right now that we didn't get a chance to do today, but I keep everything, guys. I really do. And even if we don't do it straight away, we might do it at some point, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hayden, where can they find us?
They can. Don't do this to me. I've never done this.
Where can they
find
us?
On Instagram at Teach Sleep Repeat Pod.
Nope.
Cast.
Yep.
Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. It's because the Gmail is TikTok. That without the pod. TikTok at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast.
Correct.
Same thing.
Email
teachsleeprepeatpod at gmail.com.
Absolutely. I think we might need to spend some of our time aligning those.
Yeah, it's quite a running meme, that, isn't it?
And do you know what's going to really, really help us, especially because we won't have a job soon, is if you just give us a review wherever you are, guys.
You were going to ask for money then. I was like, we can't be stooping to this level already, surely.
No, just a review. It's free. It helps us massively. Guys, that was big for us. Let us know what you think, and we will see you next time.
See ya.